Hey, what's up, y'all? Samari here with another special guest with today's episode. And I'm excited because, this is a good friend of mine. I've known this person since I think 2018, 2019-ish area. And he's been doing amazing things. And we like to just, have conversations with people who are crushing it in the business, entrepreneurship, and even tech space, and kind of whatever area they're in, just to get some insight to bring value to our audience, but then ultimately, just to see what their world is like and how they're securing their future. So today we have a special guest, guys, and our friend Alessandro. The first thing we'll do is, really just ask you, introduce yourself, bro, and tell us what you do and how you do it. What's going on?
All right, brother. Thank you for having me, man. It's an honor. You're my brother, and I love what you're doing here, giving people platform and sharing the stories that are going to impact people. So, yes, I'm Alessandro Sciaraffe. I'm originally from Italy, grew up in London as well, and I made the move to Miami in about 2018, where I was coaching elite athletes on the specifically professional tennis players at the time. But since then, I branded out and expanded out. I got a personal growth company for entrepreneurs, coaching founders, CEOs, and their employees and corporate teams. So that's a little bit of background.
That's what's up. So I mean, how did you get into that? How did you get into that field? How did you get into that profession, that industry?
Yeah, I was originally a professional tennis player, so I was touring the world as a pro athlete. And the lessons that it taught me along the way in my kind of reflective mindset, I studied sports psychology, coaching sciences, neuro-linguistic programming. I was always into psychology. So I was able to apply, get the experiences I was having on the professional tennis tour and apply them to helping other people, because my original goal when I was about 12 was to help other people. It wasn't really to be a pro athlete. So I was actually more passionate about coaching than playing on the tour.
That's amazing. The first question we asked our guests, and we just had a conversation about this. We just had a networking event in Miami, and you were there. Thank you. I was actually editing the video of it. I'm going to post it today. So thank you for coming and showing up. And, we had a good time that night. But, the first thing that we like to ask our guests while we have conversation is, so if you could really go back 10 years ago, based off what you know now, given the insight you have now, given the skin in the game that you have now, from this very moment, what are some of the things you would tell yourself? What are some of the things that, you would inspire to, if you can go back in time, just say, hey, look, do X, Y, and Z, or don't do X, Y, and Z. What would you tell your younger version of you?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's similar to just educating the younger self about, there is this fear that I had as a younger self about the vision I had for myself, this identity, this character that I would become. And I had this fear of actually becoming it just because of what my background was like, my environment, my family, no one was a professional athlete. So I wasn't exposed to any of that. So my most common, environment was not professional athlete lifestyle, wasn't a coaching lifestyle. So I had this inherent fear about, oh, should I be doing this? Because I don't see anyone else around here doing it. Is it the right thing? And it's all nonsense talk. So I would educate my younger self to just go and surround yourself with the people that, that your tribe, they're the people doing what you want to do, which is actually what I did. I moved to Spain when I was 17, and then I moved to Miami, and so I was doing that. But I think I'd go back and say, just go for it even more. It might sound wrong for some people, but not everyone's going to understand your mission, even your parents sometimes. So I made some decisions to be away from my family, which were the good ones in the end, because when I come back, I've reunited them, and I've got these, bases to host them and have beautiful time in Miami and expose them to opportunities they would never had. So it would be just to double down when I was younger, double down, listen to less people. Go with my instinct, but listen to the professionals, the ones that, already done what I aspire to do.
No, that's dope. What's funny to me is that, as you're saying this, is most of us are like, man, we just go harder, double down, don't even worry about the things that, don't even matter. And you really only know that once time has passed. But, for somebody who's out here listening, it's we're in our 30s, our early 30s. And, when we met, we were in our early or mid 20s.
Yeah.
And it's just man, if we could just double down just a little more and just go harder a little more and push the extra mile,
Yeah.
it's all worth it. And I remember before we get back into, your story, I remember working out in college. And in college,
Yeah.
what happened was, my last year at a school, Dallas Baptist, shout out to Coach Flickner. We had like Navy SEAL training or Marine training. It was Navy SEAL training. And they will always say, no matter what your mind is telling you, your body can go 40% more.
Yeah.
It's like the 40% rule. Whatever, like, your mind is playing tricks on you. Your mind is playing games on you. Your body can go 40% more. And it's like even today, waking up, playing basketball, like my foot was hurting, right? But hey, we can go 40% more. So we played 7 or 8 games instead of, sitting out after the first game because of I
Nice.
had a little foot problem. But it's like,
Yeah.
anything in life, like double
Yeah.
down so you can get the crown a lot sooner.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I help people investigate is basically what is stopping you doubling down. Like that's why I help people investigate. What is the fear behind? There's obviously some sort of reason and justification that we didn't double down. So actually speaking that out loud and bringing it to light and not keeping it in the shadow actually makes it less powerful. So whatever is stopping us, it becomes kind of dissipated. So, for me, I don't know about for you, but back then it just would have been, oh, how would have people perceived me, and oh, am I going to lose these friends now because I'm not, really relating to their values? I'm going to be, doing this kind of business. So that's all in the realm of caring what other people think. So once we kind of say out loud what is stopping us doubling down, we kind of see the futility of it. Kind of like it's really ridiculous, and you start to build like a strategy around. Okay, that's not really a truth. That's just a perception you have, a lie. So what is the fear about that that's really holding you back? And then you address that and you get it out of the way and you feel more free to actually double down.
Today, this episode is brought to you by Liquid Brokers, a licensed and regulated trading platform that opens up the foreign exchange markets for you to trade currencies and cryptocurrency. Let's dive in. First and foremost, Liquid Brokers is a platform that's licensed and regulated, which means you can trade with peace of mind. They offer a 1 to 500 leverage, giving you the opportunity to make the most of your trades. Plus, if you're outside of the US, you'll have access to the MT5 trading platform. But wait, there's more. Liquid Brokers also provides you with access to their in-house trading platform, Liquid Charts and Liquid Charts Pro. This allows you to trade on the go, making it easy to stay on top of your investments. Now, here's where it gets really exciting. You can actually refer the platform as an affiliate and earn cryptocurrency every day. That's right. You can use your earnings to build your crypto portfolio, your trading account, or for whatever you want in your everyday life. So, what are you waiting for? Head to the description and use the link to create your free Liquid Brokers account. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more awesome content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.
Based off the people you've worked with, right? Based off of all the information you've gathered over these years, these countries you've been to, what is the answer to that question? I'm curious to know.
The answer to what? How you can double down and get out of the way?
No, what is the answer to most people's fears? You say what are
Okay.
doubts? What is that hurdle? Like based off what you just said, like what is
Yeah.
the answer or the couple of answers that most people come up with?
Yeah, it's a great question. There is like what I call what I've learned from working with, some Olympic medalists and in the tennis world, Grand Slam champions, former number ones in the world, you hear the same message, which is like there's a precursor to all of this. So before you have the fear, there is already a precursor that created the fear. So it's about addressing, what are you fucking afraid of? Pardon my French. Like, what is stopping you? And let's address that. And then you kind of make that dissipate. It starts to dissipate. And you actually start to relate more to the identity that is the opposite of the fear. So you actually wake up every day and you're moving every day and your dialogue every day is more relatable to the one person who's doubling down to other than the one that has the fear, if that makes sense. So it helps with going into these environments where you are away, from distractions and you're only around these types of qualities of people. Does that make sense? I lost you, AB. I lost you.
No, I'm here.
But anyway, I was saying, yeah, like most of the champions that I've worked with and founders and, in London, it's really about being in the environment which gets you to relate to the version of yourself that is doing the goal. Rather than, because what's happening when we don't double down is we're just relating to the person who's in fear. We're like totally identified with that person. Like, oh, what are people going to think about me? I shouldn't do this. So you're totally embodying that person. So then you get the results of that person.
How long does it usually take somebody to get over whatever it is that is giving them this roadblock?
Yeah, well, in my line of work, it could take as quick as 1 hour.
Yo, hello, Key. I'm here. So if this
I didn't know what's going on.
no, if the screen goes off, don't worry.
All right, cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, in my line of work, it could take just a conversation. That's how much the roadblock could be removed. Because what's happening when people are working with me? We are hosting a space where they're only going to speak about and cultivate, strategize who they would like to relate to. What priority area of their life is the priority right now? And if they could choose what would be happening in that area of their life right now, what would it be going like? You see, that's a total different conversation to, hey, what's your problems and like, what are you struggling with? Because you're just going to keep repeating the cycle. It is important to like name those things, but to answer your question, it can be as quick as a conversation because we're only going to be talking about what would you happen in your life if you could choose it to happen. Okay, then we can start to strategize. Like, what would have to be true before that even happens? And then you start to see these stepping stones, and then it becomes actionable baby steps. You actually start to see the possibilities. You're like, oh wow, it's not that big of a deal at all, actually. So a conversation, it could be that quick.
So you're literally telling me that, and I was listening to Tony Robbins the other day, and he was
Oh
saying,
yeah.
I don't know if you watched this interview, but I was watching this interview with Patrick Bet-David, and he was talking about how there's been somebody who's working with this person to get over X, Y, and Z for like 7 years, and Tony Robbins was like, that person could probably get over that in an hour. Right. And so that person came to whatever Tony Robbins was doing, his event or whatever, and that person got over, I think it was being like afraid of snakes or whatnot every time, or having anxiety. And so he used a snake as an example. And long story short, she got over her fear within an hour or two. So what are some of the practical things that people are doing, or to like, what's the difference between it taking somebody an hour or a day to get over something versus somebody who is trying to battle this thing, for years and years and years? Is it you as a coach, the mental coach thing, or is it them as a player type of thing?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it is a combination. I can't really speak on the people that it takes, years and years and years, but I can speak on what I do. So it is a framework for sure. There's a framework that coaches do. And also it's good to differentiate what's a coach and what's a mentor and what's a consultant and what's a therapist, right? So a coach is someone who's going to work on forward moving things that are to create something for the future. And so you end up investing so much time in the conversation about this alternate world, this alternate reality in the future. So you end up becoming invested in this new world. You have all the details. You know what it's going to feel like. You know what you're going to be saying in your head. You know what other people are going to be saying about you. So you're almost creating this film, this movie in this conversation. So your nervous system ends up feeling comfortable with this new result. And so what happens is your nervous system feels comfortable. So your body language changes. The tone of your voice changes. You might be saying the same thing to get a deal done, right? But after these types of conversations and strategy, you say the same thing in a different body language and different tone, and it closes the deal. Just because you've changed how your nervous system feels about the situation, you've actually, to answer your question, you've had that conversation which is directly helping your future. And that's kind of different to like therapy or mentoring, because mentors are going to kind of give you the experience they've already had and kind of give you the answers and some roads that they've done. But what's powerful about coaching, and I mentor too, but what's powerful about coaching is we actually give the client or the person the experience of going through it themselves. So they come up with the answers, they come up with the solutions, they come up with what people are going to say, what they're going to say. So it's such a more impactful way because it sticks with them. That's why the Tony Robbins thing, he would have asked these questions to them, which would have been like going through an experience in their mind and their body. So the lesson sticks with them. Whereas in mentoring, you're kind of getting told, and it still can stick with you, but it's not experiential. It's almost being informed. That's one of the things. Like, it's probably for your audience, it'd be good to take you through a little dialogue, because then they'll get understanding and you'll get the feeling.
I mean, okay, is that something that we can do right now?
Yeah, it's really quick. Like, you just give me what's a priority area of your life?
Are we starting now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, what is a priority area in my life?
Like right now, yeah. What's one of the most important things
One of the most important things
that you'd like to talk about, obviously openly on this interview?
No, I'm an open book, bro. You know, it's all love. You know, I'm
Cool.
close enough on social media. It's like, you know, people can find where I'm at no matter where I'm at. Kind of work on
Cool.
that. But yeah, so I mean, a priority in my life right now is a relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. That's a priority in my life. A priority in my life is doubling down on activities that are going to bring, you know, income into my life and income into my household while I have the energy, while I have the time, while I have the creative juice to do it. There's one day where I'm going to be 90 years old and, you know, 100 years old, where I may not have that same vigor that I want to, you know, benefit from the fruits. Another thing is, you know, just keep building relationships, genuine relationships with people. Whether that be in the business world, whether that be in my family world, friend world, peer world, spiritual friends, whatever that looks like, just to be a genuine person and focus on being my authentic self. So as I interact with people, even if it's the last time we interact, they can say something, I can leave them better than, you know, how I found them.
I love that.
So I mean, those things are
Those
our
three.
priority. Fitness, you know, fitness, obviously that's always probably going to be a priority.
Yeah.
And those things, bro, and just
Okay,
growth,
cool.
man.
I got it. Yeah. So there's 4 things there, right? Relationship with God, the income, relationships, and the fitness, right? So what I'd take you through now, then I'd ask you to pick one that you want to speak about, that you want to develop, like that you'd like to work on and make even more real, you know, make it come into fruition quicker.
Let's just start with the first one, the relationship with Jesus. Let's start with that one.
Okay, cool. So, firstly, why is it important to you that?
Why is it important for me? It's because based off what I've decided to subscribe to, which is, you know, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. I believe that, you know, if I practice the principles that are laid out in His Word, the Bible, then whether I am a direct fruit of it, I know it's going to be fruitful for not only myself, but for people that come after me, you know, the legacy part. And then also, you know, I believe that there's a heaven and a hell, and I want to do my best, which you can't earn it, but I want to be a disciple of that. And I want to get to heaven. And when people see me, I want them to be able to say that kid is different. And I wonder why. You know, I don't want to force my thoughts on anybody. I just want to be able to, when I'm around, people can say there's something different with that guy. I want to know more about him. And then in them knowing more about me and building a relationship, that will draw them closer to Jesus at the end of the day. And then also, I believe if you do that, you know, if I do believe and if I do act as if I believe over a long enough period of time and I practice those principles, I will eventually participate in the promise, and my family will benefit from those prayers, from those moments that, you know, I thought, you know, I could do it on my own, but I relied on Jesus, or, you know, it's bigger than me at that moment. So, but that's why it's important. You know, I believe if you practice those principles, you can participate in the promise. And let's say things do happen, right? Let's say I get rich, right? I become wealthy financially. Let's say I never reach my financial peak in my lifetime, right? Well, I know that no matter what, there's a bigger picture anyway, and that'll still bring peace to my heart. You know, and
Exactly.
it has nothing to do with the money. It has nothing to do with the abundance. That's a part of it, but you know, I want to be not stressful and content in knowing that if it happens, when it happens, or if it doesn't happen, obviously we want it to happen, then I'll be able to have peace regardless, because at the end of the day, I know that's not my number one thing. My number one thing is glorifying Jesus in the things that I do and how I treat people and how I act. You know, and I'm not a saint. I tell you that, you know, I tell you that every day, but you know, I definitely want to continue in that path for sure.
Okay, beautiful. So you mentioned like a few things that are important to you. Firstly, let's go in reverse order. The peacefulness about it, right? That you did what you said you're going to do. The legacy, the people that are going to get impacted by you having this relationship with God, right? You kind of put yourself as like you wanted to envision yourself as a role model, as someone who did things differently, so people investigate why, and then they get closer to God themselves, right? Does that sound right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. So that's like the important part. That's why this is important to you. So if things, now asking this question, if things were exactly how you'd like it to be in this area of your life, what would be happening? Or what would have happened?
In terms of me having a relationship.
Yeah. So if things like were exactly how you choose it to be, what would be happening?
So I always go back to this story in 2018 when I was on a plane. I was sitting next to this lady. She worked at Google. I fell asleep 5 minutes into the flight. I woke up, got off the flight. I was on a seat. I think I was on the end seat. She was in the middle. I was in the middle, and she was on the inside of me. So I left the plane before her, and I stopped and got off the plane. And I was headed to Vegas. We landed in Vegas. When I got off the plane, I kind of stopped just to recollect my thoughts and making sure I'm getting my ride together and all that good stuff. She comes off the plane and she says, "Hey, I don't really know you. I forgot your name, but pretty much Jesus is." I was told to tell you that he's waiting on you. So this is in 2018. It's not 2025. And I believe that, certain things like that, moments like that, or when I was in college at, DBU, where I was around the environment, or, when I was growing up as a kid, going to Bible camp and whatnot. I believe that I would have hurt a lot less people unintentionally, just, living the life. You know how
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
I got you.
I probably would have hurt a lot less people, and I probably would have been more keen in making decisions and being wiser and having more discernment because I could have heard God's voice a lot clearer because I would have had less distractions around me. Things that don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so you're kind of envisioning if you could have everything
I would
going
be
your
further
way.
along. I would
Yeah.
definitely be further along, 100%, because I wouldn't have made certain decisions that has led me to here. Not that here isn't a great place, but
Yeah.
I do believe that practical wise, I would have been, a few steps ahead.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that then. When you go ahead and you could choose what it looks like ahead, you have everything you would choose it to have it like with your relationship, then you tell me what's happening there. You kind of already alluded to it, said you would be a little bit more cautious, your discernment, but tell me, you can create this world. It doesn't exist yet, right? It hasn't happened. So if you could choose what everything is, like what's going on in this relationship in the future or this
Oh
alternate
man,
reality, yeah. What's happening? Tell me.
in this reality, man, what is happening right now? What is happening? Man, probably family,
Yep.
wife, married, kids, however much God blesses me with, 2, 3,
Yep.
for an example, investments, game on swole. I'm talking millions upon millions for sure, 100%, 100%. Not to say
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know me, I'm a Bitcoin guy for sure, but
Sure.
more sound investments, milk flowing with like I would have had all these things, but then even then I would have been able to be a vessel. I would have been able to give back more. I would have been able to help other people more. I would have been able to,
Yeah.
put people in a position through the resources that I have
Yeah.
to be able to
Perfect.
start at a further place, like things like that, 100%.
Yeah. Cool. So like wife, kids, investments, millions of investments, being a vessel for the message that you want to give back to people, right? Being able to give back. So that's kind of like the reality of this. This is what happens when you have it all as you choose it to be, right? Right. I'm gonna pause it for a second just for the audience, right? So this is what people do sometimes that they envision these things and then I like to get them to realize that a lot of the things you just said there about being a vessel and giving back and investments, solid investments, you don't need to wait to do those things. You see that?
Right,
So I just pause it for a second because I like to show people that when we start to talk about how they choose everything to go, they actually don't need to wait another day to do that. You don't need to wait another day to make a solid investment or to be a vessel or to, maybe some of those things with the wife and the kids, they're maybe not as realistic now, but do you see that? How you don't have to wait.
right,
You could do those actions, you are doing those actions right now, right?
right.
Cool. Just wanted to point that out. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, so that's what's happening. Like, what does it look like? Tell me a bit more what about it looks like.
It just looks like what I'm doing now, but just more, like, like even this right here, this conversation, and I don't mean to keep going back because you can't change the future, but I believe the devil does work in crazy ways, right? And now that I look back and I'm thinking about it in this moment in 20, I had a laptop just like this, and I was like, man, or 2019, this is before the pandemic. I was like, man, you know what? I want to start interviewing people and hearing about their story. This is before I did hosting networking events. This is before I was doing like any investment stuff. This is like, well, I was just fresh out of college. I was like, you know what? I want to do a podcast. And this is before, like, I didn't even know what Joe Rogan, I didn't know what any of those things was. I was just like, I want to interview people. So I did like 3 interviews. One was with like my stepdad. One was with like a good friend of mine at the time, who we were around each other a lot. He was a fitness guy. He's a big time fitness guy now. And I lost my computer.
Right.
And I'm not, and was I living the most, I was in the streets.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And it was like, it was a thing where I was so distracted from these things. And then I started building a business. And then I started doing this and doing that, which all of those things are great. That business allowed me to make the most money I ever made in a 5-hour period. This was about 4 years ago now.
Yeah, I remember.
But at the end of the day, this thing that we're doing now that I'm doing in 2025, I literally started in 2019. But because I wasn't clear on the direction, because I wasn't clear on my purpose, being non-transactional and being more transformational and giving more value, then, fast forward later, 6 years later, now we're here. Am I smarter? Yes. Am I wiser? Yes. Am I more intentional? Yes. Am I more resourceful with the resources that I have? Yes. But now it's like, I wouldn't even call it making up for lost time, but
Yeah, I get you. That's perfect. I mean, do you see how like we started with your original priority and how it cascades into all these things, right? Like investment, vessel, being transformational, not transactional. So this is why you see how these conversations become super powerful. You say one thing about relationship with God and it ends up being actually loads of things, right?
100%.
So you were saying about like why sometimes it could take just an hour, some people 7 years, but because what you're doing now is actually getting the meaning out of that priority. Okay, why do I even want these things? Yeah, because I want to be a vessel for people to, get given back something, to be an example, to have solid investments, have the legacy that people can benefit from, my journey. And so I love that. So like, in this world of yours then, in this future world, like what would you be saying to yourself as these things are happening? Like you got the solid investments, you got the wife, you got the kids, and you've got like those things going on. What would be like your inner dialogue?
To myself, as I'm like watching stuff happening?
Yeah, this in your life. You're like, yeah.
And I'm knowing that it's happening, like, and I'm like, am I talking to myself?
Yeah, this is another day in your life. You're like, you got your kids, you got your millions investment, you're giving back to the community. Like, what's your dialogue like in your head?
In my head, I'm thinking about one. I'm giving thanks to Jesus. I'm making sure that, okay, a lot of us, Jesus allows us to suffer so we can build our faith. Because if nobody ever suffered, then what's the point of having faith? Because everything's going to go right. But then also on the flip side of that, it's like, I want to be able to give thanks as well and be grateful that I have these things and be able to steward them well. And for me, stewardship is something that I really need to work on in every area of my life, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, relationally, financially, and most importantly, spiritually, especially when I'm in a time where I'm around a lot of people. We're hosting these events, we're around people who are maybe looking for guidance or looking for a community. So stewardship over the things so then they can grow. So, I will be telling myself as this stuff is happening, hey, make sure you keep the main thing the main thing. Yes, you have all these things, but these things don't matter in the greater scheme of things. Make sure you still bring value. Make sure you still you're doing your best to remain humble, but also confident but humble. Make sure you're kind. Make sure you're giving back. Make sure you're, doing things for people who don't have what you have and maybe don't even have the mindset you have. Pour into those people. I would also tell myself, figure out ways to maximize it.
Yeah.
Maximize these things. Exit without over leveraging.
Yeah, I got you. So you'd be firstly you'd be saying that you're so grateful, right? You'd be giving your gratitude. And then you
100%.
said and then you'd be telling yourself, well, what you'd be saying is make sure that you kind of, nurture this and steward it, right?
Right. I will be telling myself these things are happening, I'll be telling myself the things that I should have followed 10 years ago.
Yeah. Good. So this is awesome, right? Because again, I pause it a little bit so the audience kind of gets it. You don't have to wait to start being grateful. You don't have to wait to start saying, make sure do a thing. So you're doing it right now, you know that. But that's kind of like the power of these conversations. People end up to creating these future worlds, but they're like, oh wait, I can just do that now, right? You can just talk to yourself like that now. You don't need the wife and kids and millions to do that. But
Right.
what's powerful, right, is that that language came from a place of that alternate reality. So when you speak to yourself like that, you're actually stepping into a different nervous system. You're actually stepping into the one that you would choose to create rather than the one that feels like it's lacking it.
Right.
So you start to embody the wife, the kids, the investments, the vessel. You start to embody that now, just through the language. Some people might know the study in the audience of neuro-linguistic programming, which is kind of like a neuroscientific practice about how the language we use helps us with our body language and how we perform, how our tone of voice comes out just through inner dialogue. And that's what I kind of just did with you there. So you gave me the scenario, you told me what you'd be talking to yourself, but you don't need to wait now to talk to yourself like that. So now, as you grow up through your day, you're going to be embodying that even more. And people are going to pick up on that. So my next question is, if this is all going the way that you'd like, what are others saying about you? They might be going, Murray's like now Murray is like, what would they be saying about you?
In that world,
Yeah, in that world.
I mean, people will probably say, I think more than a say thing, people will probably just, they would just know that I'm, I wouldn't say different, but that what is the thing? Like what, like,
Put it in their language though. Someone's saying something about you. Put it in their language.
man, that guy has that. I mean, anybody would probably say this. Like, that guy has everything, and that girl has everything. Like that, he has the nice this, family that, the money this, the resources that, the belief in faith here. Like he gives all the glory. People will probably be saying those things because that's what I say to people who seem like they have these things. I'm like, man, God has
Mm-hmm.
blessed them, or they got the family, they got the community, they have the money is not a problem. They can give back. They can give back. Like they have giving hearts.
Yeah,
That person has. He's impacted so many people in a great way.
love that.
But like those are the things. I mean, is that
Yeah, it's good. It's no
that's what I
okay
would
again.
say?
Yeah, with this conversation, there's no right or wrong answers.
Right.
So yeah, they'd be saying about you, wow, he's got a giving heart. He's giving back.
Yeah, and he's real. Like he's real. Like he know. Like this person, I saw that person go from X, Y, and Z, and now they're here, and they made some mistakes along the way, but they always, for the most part, try to keep it as transparent, as real as possible. Not try
yeah,
to and try to do good by people, and really, really admit to their mistakes. But ultimately, they came out through the other side of it, and they endured it, and through that, they gave God the glory at the end of the day.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So with these things that other people are saying about you, so if you come back to the present day now, before you go into any performance or event or conversation, you can already set what you'd like them to be saying about you after the event, but before it starts. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah, so if you want someone to be saying something like, oh, he's not transactional, he's totally transparent, it was such a pleasure, he gave me so much. So you set that before the meeting starts, right? And then your kind of mind's going to go into these ideas, all right? If someone's saying that about me after our meeting, what would I have done? So that's my next part to the question, right? So if all these things were true, right, in this alternate reality, and people were saying these things about you, how you had a giving heart, and how you were talking to yourself like, I'm so grateful for these things, all glory to God. What would have had to happen before this would have happened? Like, what would have to be true before these things were true? That's a big question.
What would have to be true before is very simple. I would have to act as if I am those things before you become it. And I say this thing now where it's like, we have to act as if we are before we become. because you'll never become if you don't already know what it could even potentially feel like.
Yeah.
And it's
Beautiful.
like you have to act as if before you get these things. It's like, stewarding things when they're small, and and if you can act this way, steward this thing. If you can work out, before you lose the weight, are you drinking the water? Are you walking every day? Are you don't have to go to the gym, so I won't even say go to the gym, but are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
walking every day? Are you drinking water? Are you eating more fruit before you lose 100 pounds? Are you
yeah,
staying active? Hey, I want to become a better reader or have more knowledge. Are you listening to the audiobooks, for 10 minutes a day? Are you reading for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day? You want to
yeah,
be well versed in whatever it is. You have to be those things on a smaller scale before you become them on a bigger scale, because everything happens in incremental moments over a period of time, and eventually you'll get your the compound effect where one thing leads to another, and then boom, you take off. And so, but that's what I would say. I personally would have to become these things and act as if I am these things already.
Go over those things just real quick. You said stewarding, right?
Stewarding, if you're talking about me stewarding, if you're talking
Yeah,
about
we're talking about
relationships,
you. We're talking about you.
right, this is your conversation. We here talking about me, right?
You
But I
know
think
what I mean, though.
because it's what you do,
Yeah,
and so yeah, guys, this is an example of him doing what he does with me. This is great.
exactly.
This is good stuff because it's all like personal development in a way. And so,
Stewarding.
steward well. I read my Bible. When it comes to relationships, finding a wife. Being selective on who and what I entertain. Being
Beautiful.
selective on who I hang out with, what environments I'm in. And me, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. Man, I could be, around anybody really, and it not affect me anyway. But
Yeah,
even then, association is still a thing. So it's like, being mindful of those things.
yeah,
If
for sure.
I see that life, then I have to start making these smaller, and I have to start investing more aggressively now and being more intentional with, you know, putting my first foot out there to make some money,
Yeah,
right? To become valuable in the marketplace. So the marketplace can decide that they want to, for my services, for my knowledge, for the things that we have, they will want to pay something in exchange for a service or exchange for knowledge or exchange for value. So that means that I have to put a stupid amount or an incredible amount of value out there. Like the reason why we're doing this, it doesn't cost really to do this. I pay for the software, cool, couple dollars a month, but this is free value that somebody could potentially, it's just free content that somebody could eventually gain free value from. Hopefully it'll be valuable for the person that, we're having a conversation with, so they can maybe get some clips from it. Maybe this is valuable for, the audience, even for me, because now it's like, we're building a relationship because we come back 5-6 months later, you get better, like you go on and do what you're doing at another level. Then if I keep being consistent with this, this platform becomes bigger, and now boom, we can come back together as bigger entities, and now we just brought value to each other.
yeah,
That means
exactly.
being consistent with the networking events. That means being consistent with following the principles in the Bible, right?
Yeah,
And the practical ones, right? Not even like
yeah,
I'm not talking about speaking in tongues or anything like that. Just following which is a gift that, hopefully I get one day, but it's practicing the principles to eventually participate in the promise, which will
yeah,
eventually help one of the 7 areas of our lives: mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, relationally, financially, and spiritually, making sure that I'm having empathy for people, right?
yeah. I love
That
that.
I'm,
So these are all the things.
yeah,
Yeah. These are the things that would be true before like this higher purpose. So I would call these your goals, right? So the thing that you started with is like the higher purpose, the relationship, and then like the wife and the investments, right? And the vessels. So, but then these things, these are more goals because you can act on these things, right? The practical principles, the investments, the giving value, the relationships, you're reading every day, right? These are all kind of things that would have to be true if you were to be that person. Does that make sense?
yes,
Yeah, so now you've got kind of like a little framework for your own week to week that you stick to because you know all these tiny things, you've actually pulled them. I didn't give you any recommendation. You actually pulled them from your higher purpose. Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
So now you can discern in your week if you're getting on track with those things or if you are feeding some other goal or feeding some other habit. So that's good. You've got that list. You've got the practical, applying the practical principles. I just wrote some of these down, like reading. You got the investment. You got giving value, doing these interviews. So beautiful. So yeah, then it would be more about what was stopping you before. Then we would go into that. But we'll finish with one little question. So firstly, do you see that process we've just been through?
Yeah, I see it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and the whole point of it was to get you just spent, I don't know, 30 minutes embodying that future. So your nervous system and your mind are more familiar with that outcome than anything else right now. And imagine if you're having these conversations frequently and you've got someone to guide you through it and we end up writing some action points down, you're going to have very aligned and specific weeks and days where a growth is going to be accelerated. It can't not be when you work like this. So that's the long-winded answer to your Tony Robbins.
No, that's good, man. No, that was good. I'm happy I went through that, bro. So thank you for that. Thank you for that session really quick. I appreciate it.
You're
And
welcome.
so in the athlete world, how does that translate into, I guess, on the business and entrepreneurship side, I guess, in terms of the athlete, turning that reversal of their thoughts into winning, into money, into, excellent play in their sport? How does that translate?
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially goal action alignment, right? So you got a goal. Are your actions even aligned with that goal? That is the premise of the whole thing. So you say you want these things, right? You got the goal. You say you want all these things. You want to express yourself in this way. You want to be represented like this. But then let's organize your actions to actually embody that. So and what did you mean by translate from athletics to business, or for this technique into results?
Yeah, I'm your client. I play basketball, tennis, football, baseball, whatever sport. I'm a professional. How can that translate into me making more money as an athlete? How can that translate into me being more successful on the court, me being more valuable to my team, to my organization?
Yeah, well, let's take like an example with basketball players, right? Because I'm hopefully going to be working in the NBA soon. So let's take basketball players that they're free throw percentage, right? And everything that's happening in the NBA, right, is giving them value for their next deal. All their performances is equaling their monetary value. So it's quite a big deal, their performance. So let's say we're talking about free throw percentage. The goal here is to get the player, the athlete, to relate to a version of themselves that has a high make percentage on their free throw than the one that they're having now. That's the goal, right? So I'm asking them, like I just did with you, tell me what's happening in this ideal world, how you choose it to be happening. I'll be shooting 80%, let's say, right? I'll be shooting 85%. So then we go into that process of, okay, like what would have to be true? Like, how does it feel to be shooting 85%? We need to get them familiar with shooting 85% before they do it. That's the precursor, becoming familiar with something before it actually happens, because then you feel competent to do it. So we take them through that process, and then there's going to be actions aligned with that. So if they are shooting 85%, what are the actions? Like, what would you have done in your off season? What would you do today? After the game, what would you have done? But you're talking from a place like you are shooting 85%. Like, take me through the day to day of an 85% shooter on the free throw line. So that's going to align their actions with the goal. And the goal is obviously the free throw percentage, but what's the higher purpose of the goal? It's not just to shoot 85%. It's to get the bigger deal. It's to have the legacy, to provide for their family, right? So these actions, they mean a lot more than just a percentage. I mean, that's how it translates. I don't know if you see that. Do you see it that way?
No, I see it that way. And you're pretty much saying that it's not only about the goal. Yes, you have these goals, but what are your daily activities that you're doing? Your DMOs, right? I like to personally call them DMOs, daily method of operations, that you're doing on a consistent basis over a period of time. That's going to eventually help you reach this goal. And how often are you doing them? How often are you not doing them? And if you truly believe that you're going to do these things, that you say you want these things, are you truly doing the actions? Because I remember I heard somebody saying, let me know if you agree with this. I heard somebody say one time, stop writing down your goals. right? Stop writing down your goals. Only write down your goals if you're willing to write down everything that is going to take in order to reach that goal, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a goal where I want to do 100 episodes. So if you break it down over the course of a year, that's 52 weeks. If I can do 2 episodes per week, that's 100 episodes. But beyond that, am I willing to find the entrepreneur, pay for their software? Am I willing to be on a call for an hour every time I'm doing it? Am I willing to set a time aside to edit the video, chop up the video, post the video so I can, these things matter.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with
You
that.
know what
I
you're
agree with
saying?
that. Yeah, and I agree with that. And also, it's also about aligned action because you could be really busy in a not aligned way. So this process, talking back to the athlete, right, about the 85% shooter, it's about pulling from the 85% shooter version of themselves that gets you the aligned actions because they could be doing a lot of good things, but it's not aligned. It's not aligned with the 85% shooter. It's aligned with the 80% shooter. It's just subtle, but you pull from the ultimate goals or the ultimate higher purpose because that's going to give you the direct actions that are in alignment with that version of yourself. So it's about organizing your mind, organizing the familiarity of the end goal, and then understanding from that, what would you have been doing to even get to that performance level? And those are going to be your DMOs. But it's important to do it that way, Amari, because you know for sure that your baby steps are being pulled from the right place. You're not just creating baby steps from where you are now, because where you are now is a 70% shooter. You ain't going to come up with the right ideas.
Right.
You're going to come up with ideas from totally different person. Like, obviously, in the Bible, it's about, what is it? Crucifying the old self. Like, you want that old self to die. You don't want to be making decisions from that self. You want to be like resurrecting or rising to a new self. So that's going to have new ideas. It's going to be new bedtime routines. You're going to be new crowds. Like with the 85% shooting goal, it might just be hanging around the different people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're only going to come up with these things if you come from the end result. Like you get familiar with that and then you pull the actions down to today. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. It's funny how you just said that, you have to kill this version of you, because in church last week, our pastor was talking about there is a BC version of you and there is an AC version of you, like a before Christ version, like an after Christ version. So it's like there's an 85% version of you. There's an 80%, shooter version of you. Let me ask you this question, bro.
Yeah.
What is the difference between an athlete who maybe is an 85% athlete or 80% athlete that's trying to get to an 85% free throw shooter athlete, or a person who is maybe that's in the top 100 of tennis players versus them wanting to become in the top like 75 or top 50. Not crazy change, from the outside looking in, but are those levels like, how much does it actually take to really get to that next level?
Yeah. Great question. It might be a bit boring, my answer, but it comes back down to how much you're willing to kill your old identity and have a new one.
But
So,
is that leap? Is it on a daily activity? Do you have to like completely change everything in order to make a small percentage? Because sometimes people would think, and they would say that a lot of people think that to go from good to great is just like you wake up earlier, right? But it's like,
yeah.
no, some people think this, and some people think that it is waking up just a little bit earlier. Some people think that, you have to completely do something different in order to even be incrementally better.
Yeah, I mean, people have got their strengths that they want to keep, right? You don't want to, they're your strengths, the things that you do well naturally. So they're going to continue to shine. But the answer I like to give to people on that question is who you're relating to being. I want people to understand this. It's this world that you think you are in, like the person you view yourself as, that's the precursor to new routines. That's the precursor to a new efficiency. It's a byproduct. So people will go, yeah, I'm going to wake up earlier, but you haven't addressed the core thing, which is you don't view yourself as an 85% shooter. Does that make sense? If you're a top 100 player and you want to go 75, you're doing the new disciplines, but you haven't addressed the main thing. You don't view yourself and feel yourself as a 75 player. So that's the level of work that needs to go into it. You become familiar with that part of you that's no longer 100, it's 75. And so, yes, then you're going to come up with, what would my life look like? What would I be doing? It's always got to come down to that idea of yourself. But obviously, yeah, I've worked with like the #1 junior in the world and top 100 junior tennis players and top 700 to 400 male tennis players. So I can see like the actual difference. If you're asking me like on the ground level, what's the difference? There's a lot of things, man. There's like the family, socio-economic, cultural background, what they're willing to give up and how open-minded they are to things. And are they still attached to their old values that serve them to get there, but they're not going to serve them to go forward? There's the economic stuff, people's relationship with money. How open are they to receiving sponsorship, to speaking about themselves highly where someone would sponsor them or get a brand deal? Because the money in sport is helpful when you're coming up. It's good to have the finance. On the ground level, it's a lot of those things, but how I work with people to get the money, to get the brand deals, is to change the idea about who they're relating to themselves as and relate it to someone who does get brand deals, who does jump from 175, who does go from 80 to 85%. That's actually the crux of the work. The rest cascades out like we did with you. We spoke about the relationship and it cascaded out all those things.
So you as a coach, right? Because I know you're talking about the player getting better and whatnot. You as a coach, do you have to continue to be a student of the things that you believe and the things that you preach as well in order to be able to coach these high level athletes? Or, kind of once you got it, you got it. Is it important to stay, fluid in your learning of?
Yeah, I love that. I think even higher than a student is to be in rhythm, like the law of rhythm, actually to continue developing myself. Like I still train myself 3 to 4 hours a day as a tennis player, just because, I used to compete. I want to stay in that mindset. I like to stay in that rhythm of empathy with the player. So it's deeper than studying. Continuous studying is actually being the kind of the role model, actually being that. So yeah, the answer to your question is yeah, for sure. It's continual study, which I do, but then it's also applied studying. Yes, you're studying, but you're actually going to go out and practically continue this lifestyle and also keep growing. And because what people don't understand when they go to see a coach, right? Even if they're one of the most successful coaches in the world, you as a student, you're only going to receive the information from them at the level that you're at. So if you go see an NBA champion, right, a mentor, you can only receive the information to the level that you're open to receive. And you're open to get rid of all your old values and all your old paradigms. So you're only going to meet them where you are. So I help people to kind of prepare for things like this, for such meetings, when they're going to go see maybe a mentor, or they're going to have a big meeting, or they're going to go close a deal. We got to get them into a state where they're prepared to meet the person and at the level that they're at, which means you're going to have to, for 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your conversation, you're going to have to forget everything you know and you think that's right about the world and whatever for 10 minutes, but put that to a side and take on board what someone's saying as if it's presupposes truth. Because that's how you're going to be able to shift. Only if you let go of things like you were saying about resurrect, like get rid of those things just for 10 minutes. And then when you go to them, you're going to be able to receive the information to the level that they're at, not the level that you're understanding. Because our understanding is at this moment is a top 100 player is at 85%, 80% sure. We need to get into a place where that understanding is out the window so we can take on board like a new understanding. So right. Yes, study, embodiment, living the life. It's not just talking it, what me and you talking it, like after this, I'm going to go train for 3 hours and it's part of my life. Like you waking up this morning, playing basketball.
Yeah. No, I get it. And for me, it's more than just playing basketball. It's staying in shape, staying in rhythm. I get it. It makes sense. What does your training routine look like, as a coach in this atmosphere? What does your training routine resume look like?
Okay, well, a lot of yoga, Pilates.
Okay.
And then I'll go train on the tennis court with some pro athletes. And then I'll recover with yoga and go into the swimming pool if I can, like to do some hydrotherapy. And then like on the mental side, it's more about like having an environment where there's nice music, like relaxing sound, meditation. That's kind of like my normal routine.
Okay, that's dope.
Yeah. Only because like when I was on tour, I knew what it would take to be fresh every day. And when you're on the tennis tour, not, I don't know, like the NBA is only in America, but on the tennis tour, you're traveling from China to Europe, to Miami, then you go to, you're all over the time zone. So how you take care of yourself is like, it has to be premium.
What is that environment like? On the pro circuit in the tennis world, where you're traveling. Like, we want some insight. How is that life?
Yeah, it's I think it's not for everyone because I met a lot of people that they found it difficult with the food, adjusting to cultural food and the maybe AC. In America you use air conditioning. In Europe we don't really use air conditioning. So it takes a certain level of like joy from a person to just not be affected by like these things. Like for me, it's a joy to do these things. So the food doesn't matter to me. Like the type of bed I sleep in doesn't matter because I'm already doing what I love. So like all these things didn't matter. But yeah, I mean, last time I was at Wimbledon, that was great. You're around people that are the greatest in the world. You had like the Djokovic's there and Andy Murray's, and you get to be in the same space as them, like as equals, because you're both in the tournament. My players are in the same tournament as them, even though the ranking and the achievements aren't measurable, but they're still competing at the same level. So it's inspiring. I really encourage children, if they're junior athletes, to go for those things because then it shapes what you believe is possible going forward in your life as an adult. Yeah, a lot of traveling. I mean, the tennis environment is a specific one, Amari. Like, I think the NBA or the basketball culture is a little bit, I'm more attracted to it because a lot of people come from nearly nothing to being NBA players, whereas in tennis, you do have to have money to even start, if that makes
Right.
sense. So it's a different demographic.
Unless you're a parent like Richard Williams and you're willing to be their coach to their 14.
That's spectacular. There's a few spectacular stories like that. I love that one. And
And
I was just in Compton. I was just in LA like a week ago, and West Coast and East Coast, a big difference.
yeah,
Yeah, like here, East Coast, everyone's friendly. Like it doesn't, you guys might not say that, but everyone's really friendly over there. You gotta watch your back. In LA, I mean, I don't know about anywhere else in the West, but in LA.
I get it, man. Anywhere there's a hood, man, in any part of the world, there's a hood somewhere where you have to be a little more cautious than
Yeah.
usual. But it's all good, man. I'm happy for your experiences, bro. Let me ask you this question. For people who want to get into what it is that you're doing, right? Who maybe want to transition from being a coach, from being a player to a coach, a mental coach, and you're per se, what are the financial possibilities that somebody can earn by being in the position that you are, kind of pursuing the things that you are pursuing?
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are pretty big. You could make 7K a week. You could have like 7 different clients online that you work with where you don't have to leave your house. You can have your own base. I know one of my mentors, he was making like 6 hour days, K for the day. So, it's pretty big scope. But, obviously for you to even have those access to those things, you have to be embodying someone who's transformational. Like people come to you and they're like, "Whoa, your energy is crazy. You're actually everything is contributing to going forward." So I think it's like it's a perfect match. If you're making that much and you're giving that much value, it's a match. But yeah, the investment people can start by doing like life coaching diplomas. They can study neuro-linguistic programming. These courses and diplomas are like 3K, 5K. Or you could do what I did when I had no money, which is I just sought after the mentors, the best people in the world, and just say, look, I'm getting on the flight and I'm going to come hang out with you. Like, use me as a volunteer. I just want to be around you and learn everything. And that's actually what happened to me in Miami. I got sponsored by like one of the former number ones in the world in tennis. He loved what I was about. So he paid for my visa and I got to learn, the elite level knowledge that I'm applying and giving to people now.
That is awesome, bro. I want to segue into that really quick
Yeah.
because people often ask, how can you bring value to people? And I always tell people, especially in my world, like the business and entrepreneurship world that I'm currently, I guess, in now, because of the events that we host. And I'm like, man, you have to there's the people that you're gonna network. with aren't the people that are already above you, because they have their own crew that they're networking with, right? You want to network with people, and you're probably going to do more business with people who are on your level, no matter what industry, just are on your level, on your trajectory, right? Build with the people you're growing with. But if you do want to cheat code and you do want to expedite the process, you're probably going to have to go do something for free for somebody who already has the thing that you want, because rarely can you offer them anything that they're going to pay for if you're not already at an elite level like them, because they're the person above you is always looking to get to the person above them, right? And so you either have to pay your way, earn your way, or pay your way, earn your way, or serve your way. A lot of people can't pay you. Paying your way is great, but eventually you're gonna most people run out of money in order to pay into the level that they want to pay in at. You can earn your way. Earning your way takes time. But the thing that always expedites time and expedites money and usurps money is service. So the fact that you said, you know what, I'm just gonna go hang out with the top guys. I'm gonna go give them value. In this world, that's how you expedite the process. And it's important that I'm happy that you say that, because I just want the viewer to know that for anybody who's listening to this, is that sometimes you have to go and work for free or give value for free or go and serve the person who you want to work with or you want to be around. Because if you're offering them this value for free, nobody's going to say, most people aren't going to shun you out from giving them, for being pretty much a volunteer for them, and probably saving them more time. If you can save somebody time, if you can save somebody energy, if you could be somebody's mate when it comes to, having somebody to express themselves to, you can exit the process, and then you just leverage that relationship, because eventually if you do a good enough job with them, you're then going to be recommended by them to people who may still be above you but lower than them or on their sphere, and then those are going to be those paying opportunities, and where you can monetize you pretty much building your audience because you did it for free.
Let me piggyback off that, because that's really important, right? If you can get to a place where it doesn't feel like you're doing it for free, right? So when I took on that role and I decided, I was so passionate about that, and that level was so like beyond what I was used to, that it didn't feel like for free. It felt like a privilege. So I would recommend people to go and do those things, reach out to people where it actually feels like a privilege to be there. Like if you want to go work, if you're a basketball coach or a mental coach and you want to go like volunteer for the Miami Heat and that feels like incredible for you, you're not going to feel like it's for free. You're just so grateful, right? And that's really important, that you don't go there with the identity that I'm doing it for free, because that's going to get into your head. It's more about going there as a privilege, because you wouldn't have access to that level otherwise. And actually, you just, I can validate what you said, because when I did go to Miami and got sponsored, they recommended me to a lot of different roles thereon, and I was being taken on before like people that were way above my level. I was being recommended ahead of people that statistically on paper I shouldn't have been put ahead of, but because of the work and service I did, they found out, where my heart was and my level. So I appreciate that.
No, that's great. And the younger you are, the better to do so. Like, for anybody that's young and that has some time, if you're not spending money, you're spending time. If you're not spending time, you're spending money. But when you're younger, you have time. Like even us, we have time, right? We have time and energy. That's why I said earlier, it's like, I want to do all these things while I have this time, while I have this energy, because tomorrow isn't promised. And I want to even live with the principle now of, I want to become a firm believer based off my actions, that waiting or saying, or like procrastination, or we can do this tomorrow, or we can do this the next day or the next week, it's like a slap in the face to the person that created us, because it's like, we don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. We don't know if something drastic is going to change in our lives tomorrow. It's like, you know what? Let's do it today. Let's give that value today. Let's post that video today. Let's contact that person today. Let's do this interview today. Let's put ourselves out there today, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And then also like momentum, because you did that, you probably were able to you were probably able to build up momentum. And once you have momentum, the sky's the limit. But if I agree. If you don't do things fast enough, and be bad, and be bad at it long enough, aka why you're probably working for free or giving value, then you will never get good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Rhythm
saying?
is important, man. Yeah, like momentum. Rhythm is important because you could have someone the same level of you as you at what you deliver or lower level than you, but they're more in rhythm than you.
Right.
You know, things are coming off their tongue like quicker. Their energy is like reciprocal. They're not having to think so long. It's just their rhythm. So they're gonna get taken probably before you are in the opportunities, just because of their rhythm. They've been, how'd you get rhythm? Like you just said, doing things now, but consistent days in a row. Don't miss one day. And if you miss one day, you got to start again from zero. Like that's the mindset of the rhythm. So you understand the actual reality. Being in a human experience, there are realities you have on planet Earth. Consistency is one of them. Making a baby takes 9 months. You can't skip that process, you know?
Right.
So like the law of rhythm and doing things in a row, that actually has, like you said, compounding effect. You can't skip that process, and it has rewards that you can't get out of. You can't not receive.
Man, that's dope. That's dope that you said that. And the funny part is like, bro, I love having this conversation with you, bro. It's like I am talking to
Appreciate it.
my, but I'm also learning a lot, and I agree with all of the things that you're doing, and even the beginning part when you talked about, before you do anything, you have to start thinking in the world that you want to be in, right? And my mom used to tell me this all the time, like, okay, Amari, I know you play sports, like I know you want to wear shorts and shirts and sweats all day, but you know, when you are conducting business, even if it's from your computer like you are now, dress as if you are, you know, like you just want to be presentable and stuff. Like even for this interview, I mean, I could have wore
Yeah.
sweats but I got dressed
Yeah.
up, you
Yeah.
know.
Appreciate that.
But it's because I know one day that when I'm having a discussion with somebody, I want to eventually be interviewing the future president of the United States, whoever that may be. I
Exactly.
want to be interviewing politicians. I want to be interviewing billionaires. I want to be interviewing, multimillionaires. I want to be, in the rooms, having conversations with the movers and the shakers and the innovators and the investors and the founders. I want to be the person that somebody calls when they have something that's going pre-IPO and they're like, yo, we need some investors, this is going to be the next big thing. So I know
Yeah.
I have to present myself a certain way, not only by how I look, but also with how I walk, how
Yeah.
I speak, how I
Yeah.
communicate, the things that
Yeah. Your energy.
the energy, right? And I want to be that. And for those people who want to be that, you have to, in order, and kind of when in doubt, zoom out. When you zoom
Yeah.
out, what does that look like?
Yeah. And how beautiful is of an opportunity is that for young people to get asked that question? Because even just someone to go like, my cousin told me when I was 16, he's like, oh, like, what do you want to do in life? I'm like, oh shit. Like that gave me an opportunity to zoom out. But someone's got to give you the opportunity. Someone's got to hold that space for you and let you speak and ask you the right questions. You see how powerful that is. So yeah, I love that. And yeah, it is about relating to who you really choose to be before you start anything. And what you just did there about sharing your vision, this is what I do for teams and young junior athletes with their parents, is what you just did there is very important because when you communicate your vision, you're giving people an opportunity to hold a vision of you doing it. Right? So if you never tell anyone your goals and visions, no one can understand what, your passions are, how you want to be seen. So just by you sharing that, people can start to envision you doing it, and that's going to increase the likelihood. And if you've got an intimate circle that care about you, every day they'll envision you as that person, not who you are now. They'll envision you as your higher purpose. So they treat you like that, and they speak of you like that, and they speak about you to other people like that. I think you do that naturally anyway with people, but that's how I take like professional teams, like sports teams and corporate teams, and I get them to elevate because they're all envisioning how they'd want the company to grow, how they'd like to be treated, and they're all holding that vision together.
Right. No, that's real. That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you ever have like doing what is it you do? Do you ever have an issue or a problem with maybe getting through to somebody because they make a certain amount of money, as a pro athlete, where it's harder because they feel like, because where money in their mind makes them the authority figure in your relationship? How does that dynamic work?
Yeah. I mean, I've had it a couple times. Yeah.
And how do you get over them?
It, yeah, it's more a reflection of me being in that situation. Who am I relating to where I have someone who is kind of like dominating and bossing just because of the status of the money? So I take responsibility for even being in that situation. Because if I'm in a different energy where I don't relate to someone doing that to me, then we wouldn't be clients and we wouldn't be having a relationship. That's my honest answer. When it actually happens, you're just riding it and you're doing the best you can and you're keeping open-minded and delivering communication. But I think the answer to your question is I was in that situation for a reason, to learn who I need to be relating to, how much stronger I have to be, my body language, setting the terms of agreements a little bit more strict in the interview process to see if we're a match, sussing out their mindset to see if this is going to be an issue, if it's going to break down really quick. So I think those are some of the tools like to help avoid those.
There you go. That was good. That's good information. What are some of what are some of the things, I want to wrap it up here soon. What are some of the things that
Yeah,
you're looking forward to 2025? Some of the things that you're looking to do, looking to accomplish.
yeah, great question. I mean, working in the NBA, I'm super excited about that. Specifically the Miami Heat, hopefully. That would be a dream come true because I used to watch them on TV in London. Like I didn't really used to watch soccer. I was just watching Miami Heat. So that's gonna be good. Yeah, going back on tour with the tennis players and going to Grand Slams like Wimbledon and the French Open and the US Open in New York. That's going to be exciting. But also building my base and feeding the community here in Miami, which I love. I love you guys. I love the wellness industry, the brands that are out there, the corporate brands that maybe need a someone to help their employees or their team cohesion or actually get to their goals. So I want to be doing a lot of workshops here and speaking engagements in Miami. So I'm super excited about all this.
No, that's dope, man. Listen, I grew up playing tennis, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, bro. My tennis racket is summer right here. It's a racket. I love playing tennis, bro. I used to go to summer camp in the summer, and I remember just watching Wimbledon every summer. Like I would split it between basketball and tennis, and when I would go with tennis, I would always be at tennis camp while Wimbledon was going on, and it was such a big thing. Like I love tennis. Like it's one of my favorite sports. So anytime I could,
Yeah,
now I'm not the best tennis player. I'm decent for like an amateur.
yeah, yeah.
You
So you
know,
coming with me? You coming
no,
with me?
to where?
Wimbledon.
Oh, I'm down. Are we gonna play? I'm never playing you in tennis.
No. I mean, come to Wimbledon, the event. I'll get you in and be a part of the team.
Yeah,
Like, go
yeah.
interview who you want.
I mean, let me bring this, and I can document the process. Why not?
Yeah, man. No, if it means something to you, I'd love to, like a lot of people tell me about Wimbledon, and I said like, yeah, just come. That'll be if I can do that for you, just come.
What are the dates of Wimbledon per se?
I think it's like July,
July what?
beginning of July, first 2 weeks.
Okay, because I'm scheduled. Okay, we could. Yeah, maybe probably.
If not that one, New York, US Open, like end of August. That's huge, and it's a lot of fun in New York.
Okay, that I have them in New York too, so that's probably something I could do for sure.
So July, August is a busy tennis period.
No, 100%, 100%. My last question for you is this: when you hear the phrase "secure your future," what does that mean to you?
Great question. To me, is about being accountable. It's actually about every day having that end vision in mind and who you see yourself as and how you impact the world, and keeping that at the forefront so that all your actions, decisions, language, and things that you say to people, how you behave, are coming from securing your future. So, and also just being responsible for how much impact we have. Look at like what your parents had to go through and your family had to go through just for you to be born. We're doing the same thing now. The things that we've got to go through just for. I got a lot of cousins, right? I got like my most passionate thing right now is secure your future. I got like a 12-year-old cousin, a 13-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 20-year-old. And I want to create a sanctuary here, like where they can come over here and have exposure to opportunities in Miami. They're from England. Like many of them never left England or left their village. So yeah, that's what it means to me.
Well, there you go, bro. Appreciate you, man. Where can the people follow you at and find you?
They can search on my website is my main place, which is Alessandro performance coaching. I'll put it maybe in the link for you guys. And I'm on Instagram, I'm becoming more active. So it's Alessandro Life Coach. But my website is where you got all the free resources and documentation of my time on tour and stuff with business.
Bro, you know what I think you should do, bro? You should start recording yourself playing tennis.
Yes, I've done that a few times. I can do that.
Like snippets, like think about you doing 5 to 7 second snippets of you just hitting the ball, right?
Yeah.
And then saying something motivational, or just in the hook of the video saying 3 things you can do to get over your whatever in the sport. I think you have a magnetic personality, bro. I think content is, especially with sports, people love sports content, so I think it'll be something that you can excel at. So, but I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much, and make sure you guys subscribe, like, share this conversation, and even comment where you can comment at. So appreciate you guys. Make sure you stay tuned in so you don't get tuned out.